Hey guys, hello and welcome to Spud Life with me, your host, Tatty Tim. Okay, so here's a little taster of what to expect in this week's episode.
Nah, it's not obvious. It's Cumbria. It's going on a bit. Can I just burn somebody to death in the first page? Anthrax, Megadeth.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
Metallica and Slayer. And
I think I've seen all of them.
yeah, you probably.
I've seen Metallica a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've seen Slayer support. I've seen Slayer twice actually because they were Ozfest one year. And,
Were they?
And they were the one year I did Donington when it was Donington.
Yeah.
It was a nice opportunity. And my boss at the time said, "Can you give me a year?" I said, "Yeah, I'll give you a year." It was like that. I mean, as soon as I made the decision, I just wanted to go.
Out. Yeah.
And I just couldn't concentrate on anything.
anything.
And I didn't have an agent or anything
No.
at this time. I had a publishing deal, my very first publishing deal, which were a very small publisher. I don't want to go Paramount because I didn't have Paramount TV. I do now actually, but I didn't at the time. But then Channing Tatum, who had partnered with Paramount, said, "Well, I want to meet him."
Right.
So I ended up having this meeting with Channing Tatum, which I did.
Hello, and here we are again in the Caravan of Love, and I've got an absolutely super special guest today. He is a multi-award-winning, best-selling author, better known to the world as M.W. Craven, but I'm going to just introduce you as Mike. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. So, how's things?
Good.
I didn't getting you're super busy because you've just got a new book out.
Yeah, it's been out about a month now.
Has it been out a month?
Yeah, it's done very well. The reviews have been as I thought they would be. I had confidence in this book. Sometimes you don't, but I had confidence in this book. I also thought a small percentage of people find it far too dark.
Oh right,
and that's exactly what's happened.
Perfect. That sounds fantastic.
It is, and I mean this is the book that my agent, who is he's a book seller by trade. He sold out some books. He has a big shop in London, another big shop in Brighton, and they're looking for premises in York. I mean, he's a big bookseller, but he's also an agent. But he's a crime fan. Yeah. And this is the first book of mine that he couldn't read it in one sitting. He had to take a break and go for a walk, which was ideal. Yeah, that's never happened.
That's
before.
Exactly what you wanted him to do.
He's the one with the puppet show. I started the puppet show with a 15-page joke.
Right.
Actually. Just two guys in a gritter van driving up to the salt store on Junction 39 to refill their lorry with salt and grit, and they find the body that was subsequently found there.
Yeah.
And one guy was telling the other joke about Native Americans collecting firewood. It's quite an old joke.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just done your foot there.
That's fine.
I don't care. And he read it, and I thought, if you read the start of the joke, you'll probably read till the end, even though I'm like just talking shite for a bit. Yeah. And when David says, "Nah, it's not obvious. It's Cumbria. It's going on a bit. Can I just burn somebody to death in the first page?" So he's not a shirker, but he found this book a very tough read. So it was nice. And
so talking about that, let's go right back to the beginning then. So where
my mummy and daddy loved each other very much. One night it was very cold.
It's probably in a similar time to me because you were born in '68, so we were both born in the summer of love. So it was 68, and then you were born, went to school, but you were born in Carlisle, but you moved to Newcastle. Yeah. So
my parents lived in Scotby,
right?
Which is, I'm actually going back there for an event in October. So
because you've moved back to Carlisle, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been back in Cumbria since '99 and in Carlisle since 2008.
Right.
When I moved from Cockermouth back to, because I was working in Carlisle. The commute was just getting a bit too much. So yeah, I was born in Scotby, and like I said, I'm going back to Scotby for an event, and they're advertising it as the prodigal son returns. Which is actually an insult, because prodigal's like a biblical thing, isn't it? It's not the prodigal son was a bit of an arsehole, to be honest. Which probably fits very well, I suppose. So yeah, we moved to Newcastle. I don't know why. I assume because of work.
Yeah.
I know my mother was a nurse in one of the Newcastle hospitals. My dad was a cigarette salesman. And
there's a job that don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Who would even admit to doing that? He died of lung cancer as well, so that's
the irony.
Yeah. So he was a death peddler. But, And I had a nice childhood.
Yeah.
Apart from my dad dying when I was 13, that wasn't as much fun as the rest of it.
Yeah.
But Newcastle it's still my favourite city.
Yeah, it's a nice city, and it's nice.
It's very compact. You can walk it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I go back there all the time for gigs because they've got an incredible array of venues, so that
in it.
Any band can play Newcastle because you've got like the Clooney, which will hold maybe 80 or 100 all the way up to the. I
know Trillions is quite a popular one for people there.
Yeah, because it's a rock bar, and I saw some great. I've seen the Damned there, and the Anti-Nowhere League.
No way.
Yeah.
Was this back then as well?
Back then,
was it?
I haven't been to Trillions back to Trillions for a while actually.
Oh, so it's been going that long then?
Yeah, it was my pub of choice when I left the army.
Yeah.
I know we're sort of spinning forwards a few years. I was a student, and when I was a student social worker, that was our pub that we went to because all my mates, I just there's a bit of reorientation period at the start of university, particularly for mature students, when you're trying to find your gang.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And sometimes you're in chatting and you're boring the tits off me, mate. I'm going to go and find someone more fun. Eventually you find people that you got in contact, and we're all like punks of a similar age, so we'd all seen the same bands when we were younger, and then they're all coming back.
Yeah.
And so we used to hang around in the rock bars and the punk bars and like the Percy Arms and things.
Because I'm guessing, because I'm from Birmingham, so we had a similar sort of vibe going on. And every band passed through, Brum. There was a lot of bands come from Brum in the first place, wasn't there? So it was like great. So you had them bars that you knew you was all going to get, your tribe was in there.
Yeah.
You always knew everybody.
Yeah.
And even though Birmingham's a lot bigger a city, when you're in that particular kind of tribe, so to speak, you're always at the same venues, you're always at the same gigs,
you see the
same people all the time.
You do, and I see people now at gigs that I went to school with. They recognise me mainly because he's an orphan now. I'm going to look out for him, so I can't go anywhere. I mean, I was just coming out the toilets in the city hall.
Yeah,
we've been to see. It wasn't Stiff Little Fingers. I think it was. Honestly, can't remember. It was this year, and some guy said, I was hoping you were here. Can I have a selfie outside the city hall box?
Because did you find now? I mean, we've gone off piste a little bit, but do you find now that people don't want autographs anymore? They want selfies. Or is it a mix? Obviously,
it's kind of always been that a little bit. They don't want autographs; they want book signs.
Yeah, book signs different
and stuff. Because I think we're quite savvy, Mark. We did a lot of publicity material, and we have done for years. Because, like I said, it's partly you take responsibility for your own success. A lot of it, because the publisher can only do so much. So we got a lot of beer mats printed.
Right.
Because I thought it was a great. I saw it at a festival once, and I thought, "What's such a cool idea?"
Yeah.
And B, I was chatting to the landlord of the King's Head in Carlisle. He said, because everyone's cost cutting at the minute, breweries aren't giving out as many beer mats.
Yeah.
So if you can provide me with beer mats, I'll put them out. Absolutely, it's like a symbiotic thing. It's a free advertising for us.
It's constantly there in front of them all night long.
So I get people to, and they always get stolen, which is fine. It's kind of the idea. Yeah. It's got like whatever books on the front, and it's got the rest of the series on the back, and a QR code that takes you to the website. And I sign a lot of them. Yeah. Which is absolutely fine, and then they just put them in the pocket and walk out as if they're like shoplifting. In fact, that's the entire thing.
They're supposed to.
Which is fun. So we kind of went from being born all the way up to last week, actually. So
did you?
It was a short interview, wasn't it?
And that's it. Tune in again next week for more interesting with my next guest. So you did the gig scene. Obviously, you're a massive stiff little thing.
Yeah.
Was that when you were in the army? Did you kind of
all the way through? It was from when I was at school. I remember being a Stuff Little Fingers fan. I remember when. When you had like a rucksack, like one was like one's
webbing type ones.
Canvas and with like two straps.
Two straps buckled on it.
Unless it was a towel or something bulky, whatever you put in fell out because they were just. And you painted the back. Yeah, I remember having like the skids and Stuff Little Fingers on.
I see you were proper into that sort of punky alternative thing.
Yeah. Always, and I mean, some of the albums I bought when I was young were worth a fortune. I bought like the first, the Black album, the Damned, the Black album when it came out, but the gatefold, grave cover, which is incredibly rare now.
I remember my mate's brother, because he was more into punk than we were, and he bought Pill, the first album when they bought Pill, and it was like a metal wasn't it? The proper
the singles were as well.
Yeah.
I was into all that, and it's kind of a shame, but the time I was growing up, I was speaking to Steve Harris about this actually.
When he was at the Brickyard,
from Maiden, yeah. Because he's a reader of mine, which
is he?
Which we can get into.
Yeah.
But what I found at school, and he was saying the same, that the punks and the heavy metal fans mixed. Yeah. Fine. It wasn't like the Mods and Rockers. They weren't brawling things like that.
Yeah.
But you kind of didn't listen to each other's music on general principle.
Yeah.
Unless it was Motorhead, actually.
Yeah.
Motorhead
brought everyone together.
They were the weird crossover band. Yeah. A lot of punks covered Motorhead songs.
Yeah.
The Cockney Rejects did of all the weird little oi bands from like the West End of London singing Motorhead. And so I've been a punk fan for a long, but for some reason I don't know why, it was always Stiff Little Fingers. They're the ones who
really resonated with you.
Yeah, and the Undertones and the Damned and.
Where did it start with you? With me, I mean, most people listening to this have already known my story about how I got into. With me, it was like that night on Top of the Pops when Motorhead played the Ace of Spades, and it was just like boom. So it must have been about 1979, 1980, and it was, you know what it's like, every Thursday night you all tuned into Top of the Pops, didn't you? And
they were quite generous then, weren't they? They would give you one metal band and one punk band usually.
It wasn't just pop, was it? It was a good mix of, you know, you could have someone like Boney M and then Motorhead, couldn't you? It was like completely mixed.
It was bonkers. I remember the first single I ever bought was My Perfect Cousin by the Undertones.
Was it?
So that was, and I was so shy back then as well, because I asked my dad to go, and went to Virgin, when Virgin was a proper record shop.
Yeah.
And I said, will you go and buy me this? And he said, no, you can go and buy it. And he made me
99p.
Yeah, whatever. It probably wasn't even that then.
Probably 50p.
But yeah, so and I had that for my very first.
Mine was Vicious Burger. So the Sex Pistols brought out. It was called Vicious Burger, and it was only like, it was trying to be good, and I think there was a couple of tracks on the. It wasn't an EP because it had one track on the one side, but it had two tracks on the other side, and it was, I think it was a couple of tracks from the Great Rock and Roll Swindle. I can't think which ones they were, but I was kind of a bit underwhelmed by it. I was.
Well, it's because, I mean, the effect had split up by then.
Yeah.
Johnny Rotten had gone, so there's just a lot of demo stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to listen to, but I mean, it's nobody's favourite album.
No, it was. Although I quite like the. I've listened back to it a couple of times, and I kind of like the sort of irony and the piss takeness of it.
I mean, there's some nice tunes on there, like Silly Thing and like Friggin' and the Riggins. Like,
that was everyone at school knew
like, that. Who Killed Bambi? And then there was a lot of the Sid Vicious covers, which were pretty ordinary.
And then they did that one with Ronnie Biggs, didn't they? Ronnie Biggs was doing Time Until He'd Done a Bunk.
Yeah. And I mean, and they went out to Rio and recorded with them, and it was all Matt McLaren gimmicks.
It was all. But at the time, when you're sort of 12, 13, it was like, whoa, this is fantastic. Because it was all, you know, you're at that age where you're rebelling and you're kind of like, you know, anything to upset the establishment. And it was just like, I'll have a bit of this.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Stuff Like Things. My tastes have changed over the years. Yeah. But that punk, that bass line is always there. Yeah. And we go to see him every year. We're going. I'll see him twice this year actually, because we went to the Barrowlands. My first visit, I was a Barrowlands virgin.
But recently.
Yeah, so it was St Patrick's Day this year, which is an iconic venue. Yeah. And my mate was saying, "Look, let's just do it the once." Yeah. And
it's some venue, isn't it? Did
you like it?
Did you not?
No.
How come?
Because I mean, weirdly, Jake Burns is actually a reader of mine.
Right.
And he had invited us backstage. He tried a couple of times actually. Then COVID, I tested positive for COVID one year. Right. And I said to him, "Look, I'm negative now, but you're on tour. I don't want to give you anything, we'll just play it safe. But thanks for the offer." Yeah. So the following year, which was last year, couldn't do it. And then so last year, went backstage, met him, lovely man, had a few drinks, and then he came up to Newcastle with Kirk Brandon from Spear of Destiny and Theatre of Hate. He has like an acoustic supergroup, which the members changed, but Kirk Brandon's always there. This time it was Jake Burns and there was two of the guys from the Ruts, Segs and Dave Ruffy, and they were doing a small tour and they came to Carlisle. Yeah. And
they did an acoustic set. That was about was that 2 months odd ago? Something.
Yeah,
earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we went backstage then. We got absolutely hammered with them. What a laugh that was. And then Kirk Brandon said, I'm coming to Newcastle with Theatre of Hate, supporting Peter Hook on like a 4 o'clock in the afternoon start all the way up to Peter Hook coming on about 9. Do you want tickets? And we'll meet after. So I was like, fine. Because I saw Kirk Brandt. It was the first festival. I was at the York Rock Festival in 1984. Echo and the Bunnymen. It was, what they call it? Sister Mercy. Spirit of Destiny, and I can't remember the other band. And I liked Spirit. I thought Sister Mercy were rubbish, actually.
Did you?
I love them now.
Yeah.
I went to see them quite recently at the City.
I did at the time, to be fair.
The new Academy, whatever it's called now. It's been refurbished on
Westgate
Road.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I knew Dick Byrne because he's a reader, and we got in touch, and he is actually he sent me a message one day on, because we're friends on Facebook, saying, I know when he found out the post he was being adapted, he said, I know it's nothing to do with you, but I'd like to throw my hat in the ring to write the theme tune. And he's written the theme tune for my TV. It's like an extraordinary turnaround from my childhood heroes.
I was just about to say, it must be absolutely insane for you.
It's crackers.
To think you were listening in your bedroom to Stiff Little Fingers, and then, 35, nearly 40 years later, you're getting hammered with them backstage at bloody in Carlisle.
Yeah.
It's mental, isn't it? Absolutely mental.
It is. And to get to the Barrowland story, he said at the Dead and Walking thing, we said we're going to, because my mate, he'd always want to do Barrowlands. And we said, we're going to Barrowlands. He said, well, I hope you haven't bought tickets. And I said, well, yeah, of course we bought tickets. We said, well, don't buy tickets for anything like it, but I'll put some VIP things so you can come backstage after at Barrowlands. And the first thing he says, well, so, what, do you like it? And I said, it's not as good as Newcastle. He said, I knew you were going to say that. But after the thing, he said, actually, weirdly, Newcastle was the best gig this year.
Was it because it wasn't packed, do you think? Or was it packed?
Yeah, because they did 2 nights, it was sold out both nights.
So it wasn't like it was half empty and it wasn't no atmosphere?
It's a good venue. I just prefer Newcastle. I don't know where I am in Glasgow.
True, yeah.
And the Barrowlands isn't in the nicest part of Glasgow anyway. And what we were saying before is that you can drink wherever you want, you want to drink in Newcastle, you can drink in Newcastle, then go to the venue. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So if you like drinking in the Haymarket, that's fine. If you like drinking down by the station, which is where we tend to hang around, like the town wall and the Forth and the Gunner Tavern and all those places. And it's just you can still walk in, like you can be there in 10 minutes. Yeah. So that's why I think I prefer Newcastle. But at that gig, he said, if you fancy going to Belfast, I'll put you on the guest list, because they do like a festival every year in Belfast. So check out this. I mean, there's a band, a 4-piece female band who I've not heard before, but he said absolutely fantastic. They're kicking it all off. There's a DJ kicking it all off. Yeah. Then it's the Skids. Yeah. Then it's the Damned. Then it's Stuffed Little Fingers. I thought, well, okay. So we're going to that. So we're getting the ferry over. It's all booked.
Is that soon? Is that sort of
August?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be pretty.
It's
going to be full on. Yeah.
So I'm guessing you were full on the gear, the full image, the lot, or not, or just the music?
A little bit. It was mainly the t-shirts. I had my tartan bondage trousers.
Did you?
And I had my DMs.
Because you'll have had shops in Newcastle the same as we did in Brum that sold.
They catered for us because I mean they all want to make money and why not? So we got a lot of gigs, and when I was in the army, when I was on leave, I'd go to gigs. Right. When I was in the army, I started to be exposed to other music. Yeah. That was the kind of my, not a transition, because like I said, I've always been a punk and I always will be a punk, but I've started to listen to bands that my friends were listening to when I was at school. Yeah. Like AC/DC, Iron Maiden, and Guns N' Roses. Well, not Guns N' Roses at school, but Black Sabbath and Purple, Rainbow and Rush, all that classic things. So I've started to over the last I started in the army. I mean, I was in a room weirdly. One of my first barracks, I was in a room with 7 other men, all of them were Marillion fanatics.
No way.
And I was the only punk. So I kind of just had to listen to Marillion all day, every day. And I quite like them by the end. Because
my wife was a mad Marillion fan, and she still is. And it was kind of like, so I've always been on the heavier side of stuff. So I went started off with the bands you've just spared, and then I evolved into the thrash scene. So I was been Slayer, the Big Four, all the rest of it. So obviously Slayer,
Anthrax, Megadeth. Yeah. Who's the other one?
Metallica and Slayer. And
I think I've seen all of them.
Yeah, you probably.
I've seen Metallica a couple of times. Yeah. I've seen Slayer support. I've seen Slayer twice actually, because they were Ozfest one year. And,
were they?
And they were the one year I did Donington. When it was Donington, it was 95. Yeah. Metallica were headlining, but Slayer were on the bill, and Pantera, and all them.
That was heavy. Set, wasn't it? It's not as heavy now, I don't think, Donington, but it's called Download now, isn't it? But
in fact, it wasn't actually called Donington that year. 94 it was Donington, and 96 it was Donington. It was called Escape from the Studio, because Metallica, because they agreed to headline it.
Yeah.
They were allowed to name the festival, so it's called. It was Donington, and it was just one day, and it was just a huge.
Because it's a weekend job now. There's so many different stages.
Yeah,
it's a total festival now, isn't it? Whereas back then it was just a one day, one stage. So we used to go every year, because obviously living in Brum was only up the road really. So I think the first one I went to was 84, and I went through till about 88ish, something like that. Saw about. Or whatever gigs were on during those times, but they were always same again. It's that tribe thing, you're walking up and there's people from all over the country. You've all got that same look. You're all there for the same reason. It's like that fellowship that you get, but through that genre of music, isn't it?
It is. I mean, when we got to see Fingers, particularly in Newcastle, because we know the pubs, you can spot the finger, because everyone's got a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And as you work your way closer to the venue, the pub's got more and more Fingers fans, and then you get to the City Tavern, which is the pub next to the venue. It's just jammed. I mean, it's like the City Hall bar itself. And it's the same when you see Maiden anywhere. The town is just Maiden.
Yeah.
Full stop, because they're obviously talking at crowds like 12, 13,000, even for just arenas.
Yeah.
Which because we're going to New York to see them this year.
Maiden.
We're going to Brooklyn.
Where they're playing? Is it one of the big stadiums?
I think it's a women's basketball.
Is it?
Stadium.
I mean,
it's the NDC Stadium in Brooklyn, which it's a big stadium. Yeah, when I was talking to my New York, my US publishers who are based in New York, this is where they're playing, and I said, and they said, that's a big venue.
Big venue, yeah.
And I said, well, they're a big band.
But it's true. It's like, when you go to like metal concerts, so I still go to quite a few of the bigger name ones. You do see a lot of youngsters sort of there. Do you notice that with the Stiff Little Fingers or not? Do you?
Yeah.
So there's still
like third generation
of kids
fans there now. Yeah, like, as in granddads are taking their grandsons.
Yeah. Oh, that's refreshing.
It kind of makes you feel old. I mean, because everyone's like me, bald, slightly overweight, on about 15 different types of medication.
But still got that punk attitude.
Yeah, with all the crutches like.
True.
And it's kind of the same with Maiden as well.
It is,
but it's still it's.
I think music's music, and if it hits you and it speaks to you, then it's going to pass through the generations, isn't it?
I think it is, but I think it's just a certain type of music, because my wife is a Stone Roses fan.
Yeah.
And I bought a ticket to see the Glasgow Green.
Right.
In Glasgow, obviously. And they were going back, and I think it was one of their first gigs that they played. So this was like a return to Glasgow. It was a massive thing. It was about 50,000 people there. And I thought the crowd was quite unpleasant. It was like an edge to the crowd. It was just like a lot of pillheads, and I thought this isn't like nice. This isn't what I'm used to.
Exactly. No. Yeah. I found
there was no t-shirts or anything. There was just people like dressed like
just normal. Yeah, it's just as if they're going out or coming back from work. But it's what I was going to touch on, because obviously you've been that punk, and you've had that punk attitude. How did that must have been a clash when you joined the army, because especially joining at 16, you'll have had.
Yeah, well, I was ready to be moulded. I think.
Were you?
I was a bit directionless. I joined by accident.
Did you?
Yeah, I went with my friend Nick, my best friend from school. He wanted to join the infantry.
Yeah.
So I just went with him. Just talked into it. Something to do, and the recruiting so I said, well, you might as well take the test, otherwise you're just going to be sitting there and doing nothing. So I took the test, did very well in it, and I ended up signing on to go to the selection centre there and then. And Nick didn't. He's been a painter and decorator his entire life. I remember I went back to Mum. I think I might have just joined the army. So She's like, but she's from a military family. I mean, her brother was like, he did like, so my uncle, her brother, did 22, I think he did 24 years in the end in the Queen's Lancashire Regiment all the way through at the SAS. My grandfather, my mum's father, was a colonel.
Right.
In the Raj, actually, which is...
it's going back.
So it is. So he was a career soldier.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I've got a lot of Asian friends who write books set in India.
Yeah.
Vasim Khan and Abir Mukherjee and a couple of authors. And they write about the Raj.
The Raj in that period of time.
And I kind of sort of feel, I thought, well, my grandfather might have your like grandfather whipped.
It's true, isn't it? True.
So it was just a weird bit of history, and we didn't cover ourselves in glory of the British at all, particularly the way it ended.
Yeah,
and caused like, millions of deaths.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I went out and I said I joined the army. She went, and I think she was kind of relieved because I was like, I didn't have a clue.
You didn't. So it wasn't like you were like the rest of the people our age, and it was like one Saturday morning you were watching Gordon the Gopher on telly, and then all of a sudden the embassy siege was interrupting our Saturday morning.
No,
thought, you know what, I'm going to join the army.
So, I mean, because there was that, and there was the Falklands, obviously. I mean, and Thatcher obviously got re-elected on the back of the Falklands, and there was a huge.
Yeah, because you would have been serving with guys that were in the Falklands,
yeah. And because I joined in '84, and the Falklands was '82. I think the embassy siege was '83, possibly.
Yeah, it was '82, '83, wasn't it? Yeah.
And so it was, and I think the Paras. It was a TV series, the Paras, and it was about Paras going through their training. That had just been on as well.
Yeah.
Because when you said what you want to join, I didn't have a clue. I was like, Paras. Yeah. That was one I heard of. So it kind of did a job. But he said, well, you probably want to be. You could basically there's like one or two trades that you didn't actually make the grade for.
Yeah.
Like a radar technician and like some of the really technical jobs.
Yeah.
But the next ones down, you can basically do any of them. If there's vacancies, you can train.
Yeah.
So I trained as an armourer, which was basically a military gunsmith.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a 2.5-year apprenticeship, and a few years later, when I decided to leave, obviously I was like fit for nothing because I mean,
militia.
Because who wants guns fixed? It was like weapons of mass destruction.
So how long were you in for?
About 12 years.
Was you? All right, so you had a good
yeah, and I kind of left by accident as well. This is the kind of sliding doors thing I was doing with Paul Musgrave, because I'd been back. I'd just been posted back to Catterick.
Yeah. For
the second time. I love Catterick.
Yeah.
Because you were virtually home.
Yeah.
It was like 40 minutes that way, or it was like an hour across to Keswick where all my friends lived. So like Friday afternoon, I could be in the pub by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just ditch the car somewhere and then just drive back blur riding on the one. So I picked up some papers to do with pension. Right. And someone else's discharge application to sign off, that's what it's called, then you had to give a year's notice, got mixed in with mine. So when I got to my thing, there was another thing, I thought, and I just looked at it. I remember just looking at it, and then you just like, tick, 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 tick. I think, fuck it. So I crossed his name out, put my name, and within about like 10 minutes, the decision, with no planning whatsoever,
was made
to me. And I went back and I said, here's my pension thing. Oh, by the way, here's like a year's notice. And he just said, you sure you want to do this? And I said, no, but just do it.
What, were you ranked by then or not?
I was a lance corporal.
Was you?
No, I was hardly set in my.
Yeah,
I was never going to be the chief of staff.
No,
but and it's one of those things. It was the same way I made the decision to left probation. Actually, once the decision's made, you just can't wait.
Yeah.
It's just exciting.
And you actually have to do a whole year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's no leeway.
They say it's to get you ready for civilian life, but it's not. It's a recruitment retention thing, because you can't go out and get. Because if they said, oh, you have to give a month's notice, everyone would just go. Everyone was pissed off. Just go out and get a job. Yeah. Give a month's notice. Yeah. And they would hold a job for a month.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to hold a job for a year.
No, exactly.
And it was one of those things. I'd been paid by the month ever since I was 16.
Yeah.
So it was quite a scary thing. Once I got my head round, all right, just save up for a bit. And I had savings anyway, because you don't spend a lot as a single soldier. I quickly realised I can do this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I thought I'll have 6 months off, 6 months of doing nothing. And I went back. I lived at home in just outside Newcastle, a village called Hazelrig, with my mum. My sisters had gone by then. One had got married to a Marine, and another was a cop in London.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just me and my mum, and I got quickly bored of not doing anything. So I got a volunteer job with the Northumberland Wildlife Trust,
right,
which is based out at the Hancock Museum in Newcastle, the Natural History Museum, which is right next to the university.
Right.
So I would get the bus in to the Haymarket, then I'd have to walk back again, past the university to the Hancock. And I did that a few times, and I thought, you know what, I might go to university.
Right.
I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if that's something I could do. So I looked into that, and I thought, I'll do law. That looks like a good thing. You make a lot of money at the end of that, solicitors. So I rang up this the head of law, because I didn't have a clue. So I just rang up like the head of department. This old guy. So probably is like his students don't get access to him, but he said, "Yeah, I'll come. I'll see you." So I went. I met him for about an hour. And
Did you?
Yeah. I got a glass. And he said, he's a lovely man. And he said, yeah, but you're going to need to do A-levels.
Yeah.
Because you've got no
formal qualifications.
No, it wasn't so much that. I had O-levels, but he said you've got no recent evidence that you can study at a higher level.
Right.
So you're going to have to go, whichever course you want to do, which with every university, you're going to have to go back to college and get A-levels. So I thought, well, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I chose 3 things. I did a year at college, got my A-levels, and when I was looking through prospectus to see to apply for my law degree, I saw social work. Well, it's only 2 years social work.
I'm
fucking around doing 3 years. So I did that, and it was quite a rigorous application process, which somehow I got through. Mainly because I was a welfare officer when I was in the army. It was like this spam job that everyone had to do for like 6 months until they could give it to someone else. And it was supposed to be like, if someone was depressed, you'd go and see the welfare officer. It was for single soldiers in the ranks. Who's the welfare? It was like, who's the fire marshal this week? I don't know. Fucking. If there's a fire, we'll go and find them. If you're depressed, go and see the welfare officer. And I mean, nobody was. Well, they probably were, but nobody was going to admit to being depressed. Yeah. So I put that down and I bigged her up and said, "Oh yeah, I did this, and this was my role." And I think I got in on the back of that.
Did you?
And then saying because social work, because legally you can't be a social worker until you whatever age. It might be different now, but you couldn't do university at 18, qualify as a social worker at 21, then be a social worker. Right. You have to be about 23 or 24 or something like that. Yeah. And it was to encourage mature students, because they want mature students.
Right.
So it was very much my... So although I was a mature student, although immature really, I mean, I was out there. Everyone joins the army, leaves at the same maturity as me. So I was like basically a 16-year-old.
60-year-old.
So I quickly found my tribe, as we're saying.
And was there quite a few mature students on it?
Yeah. I was one of the youngest.
No way, really? Wow.
And it was a lot of fun.
I bet.
I drank more as a social work student than I did when I was in the army. It was shocking. A lot of fun. Made friends for life.
Yeah.
But another one of those instant decisions that I made without any thought whatsoever. I didn't know, because I just sort of stumbled into social work. I didn't really know what they did.
Yeah.
I kind of did, because I read up after children who were like getting abused and stuff, and it's just very
vague, sort of
superficial levels. I knew what they did, so we were queuing up. Everyone did like some core programs like child protection and law and various things like that. But you could choose 3, and I was in the queue for substance abuse. Right. To study it.
Yeah, not to try it.
Which vein do you want? And I was chatting to the guy in front, Phil called Crawford, who's my best friend now. And he said, "What are you going to be when you qualify?" I was like, "I'm just a social worker. I don't really know." I said, "What are you going to be?" He said, "I'm going to be a probation officer." I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And he told us. Yeah. By the time I got to the front of the queue, and the guy said, "What are you going to be?" I want to be a probation officer.
I love how your life has gone from like...
And so I qualified later. I thought because I hadn't put that on my application form. I didn't do a probation placement.
Right.
Because you do 2 placements as a social work thing. One of them was very early on, but you're only about 4 weeks into your thing and do a 15-week placement.
Did they? Just with the local authority and just say...
Well, they just arrange it everywhere, but the ones who were going plan to be probation, because the social work thing was the probation qualification. Right. It's not now, they've got their own qualification.
Yeah.
But for years and years it was social work. They would go and have a probation placement. Because I didn't have a clue, I did with a respite unit for children with learning disabilities. Right. And the second one was with an aftercare unit. So when I qualified, all my mates who did probation, they just went straight into probation jobs. Right. Whereas I took a job as a social worker in Whitley Bay for a bit until I could get a probation job. Right. But I wanted to move to Cumbria by then anyway. Yeah. So because all my mates were in Cumbria, because I was going back on leave to see my mates. Right. So I just waited, and I didn't have to wait long, about 3 months.
Did you not?
Like that.
So there was always, back then, I don't know what it's like now, but back then there was pretty much jobs instantly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said to Joanne when I was going to leave to become an author. I said I can always get a job as a social worker. My qualification will always get me a job, and every now and then, I mean, I was at a festival, Capital of Crime in London, so that was May this year, and there was a social worker in the crowd who then searched me out to ask if I'd do some sit on some fostering panels. I started laughing. Yeah, very funny. She said, "I'm serious." And then, but I saw it 4 times. Every time she said, "Honestly, you should give it some thought." I said, "Fuck off." I just don't want to life anymore. Yeah. But I mean, there's jobs out there if you want. And the same with probation. It was a bit harder to get in probation, but it wasn't impossible. Because it's still quite high, but nowhere near the burnout that social work has. But it was. I went for an interview, and I think they're looking for 3 probation officers for Cumbria. Yeah. And I wanted to work in the West. Right. Because I wanted to live in Cockermouth, I wanted to work in West Cumbria. And so, well, actually, nobody else wants to work in West Cumbria.
The job's yours.
So yeah, you can basically have it. So I got jobs as a probation officer in Whitehaven.
Did you?
Which was great.
I bet you met some scallywags over there, didn't you?
Yeah, naughty chaps. It was good. I enjoyed it, and I met some complete characters in it, because they're all social workers by trade. So they're all quite left and liberal leaning. And just some nutters, quite frankly. And then the actual offenders that you're working with, I mean, some of them are just very damaged, and some of them are just outright nasty. Just about every.
So what is the role as a probation officer? You were kind of like, they maybe just come out of nick.
You kind of manage them,
right?
Whatever they are in the criminal justice system. So if it's someone new at the criminal justice system, you would probably write the court report, right? Recommending sentence and informing the magistrate about their home circumstances, their financial circumstances, their background, their what rehabilitation they need.
So it was a hell of a lot of paperwork then.
Well, the pre-sentence reports, it was a thing, because by and large, what you recommended is what they would get. Yeah. So it was a lot of responsibility. Yeah. So some of them would go into prison. Yeah. If it was a long enough sentence, they would come out on licence, and you would manage them on licence. If they got a community order, you would manage that community order. Right. So it might be.
This is when they come and visit you.
Yeah.
Or could be day, once a week,
what they call community service, whatever name it is now. I mean, towards the end of my probation career, it was getting changed, whichever like.
Because politically correct.
Yeah, well, it wasn't politically correct. It was seen to be tough on crime. I know they will change the name. Unpaid work for the community. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
That's a political slogan that'll catch on. And so there's any number of things in between. Manage the high risk offenders in conjunction with the police. So that and manage the low risk offenders. Just make sure. I mean, some don't need any help.
No. Yeah.
And the range in between. So you might be meeting with a double murderer. Yeah. One day, going to prison to interview them just to see where they're at in the parole system, and then
shoplifter the next.
Exactly. Yeah. Who's just managed to get themselves a little heroin addiction that they just need a little bit of help kicking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an interesting job. I kind of fell into being a manager because there was a vacancy. Our boss left, and there was a vacancy, and nobody wanted to do it.
But I could do it.
Well, it was kind of like that, as in they knew who was going to do it. It was an incredibly ambitious person from outside the West.
Right. That nobody
liked. And they said, look, if somebody from here doesn't put the, we're gonna get her. Mike, why don't you do it? And I was like, I don't want to do it. I'm having fun now. So eventually I went for it and I got it, which started my management career. And
was that less fun? More.
It was less fun.
More paperwork. More.
Well, you get all the shit. You get people moaning, man, too much work. All the stuff that I used to moan about. It's now your responsibility.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 4 years, senior probation officer in Whitehaven, and then I was poached to run the bail hostel, the approved premises in Carlisle.
Right.
Managing the high risk offenders coming out of prison. Like kind of halfway house.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a year before I thought, well, the commute's just ridiculous. So that's when I moved back to Carlisle.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Carlisle in 2008. And I just kept on through a series of unfortunate incidents. So, I mean, there was one where I can't remember. I ended up being a divisional manager. I didn't particularly want to be, because the hostel is just a brilliant job.
Yeah,
you got your own little serfdom. You got your staff. The offenders, because you can send them out of prison just if you're in a bad mood. Quite frankly, I mean, you can just from a trumped up charge. Because there's no right of appeal or anything. It's basically my say so. So it was just fun, and you had your own cook and your own budget and things like that. And I got hoofed out of that to do some divisional management. And then our assistant chief officer at the time, the police. Be careful what I'm saying. The police contacted the chief officer and said, "We will not share any intelligence with probation while this woman's working with you, because there's a serious security breach."
Wow.
She got suspended and then ultimately left before she could be booted out. And so there was a vacancy for an assistant chief. I was like, "Geez, it's going to be me again, isn't it?"
You just rose to the top.
So I was an assistant chief. I was like, "Oh, bloody hell." And then when probation split in two and Chris Grading decided half should be privatised, and by then I was starting to do some writing. Yeah. And I'd been shortlisted for a major award for unpublished writers back in 2013. I was starting to think, I
could do this.
I could do this.
Yeah.
I'd been very ill as well back in 2003, and my mortgage had been paid off. I had critical illness cover, so I'd saved up a lot of money anyway, because I was on a very good wage for Cumbria.
Imagine. Yeah.
With no mortgage, and so I was just living on my own. Yeah. I had no real bills.
Oh, you weren't married then either?
No. Right. I got married in 2012. So I'd been thinking, I'm kind of getting a bit hoofed off with this. Yeah. But when we split into two, I thought this might be fun. But I also thought they always want senior managers to go when, particularly the private sector, they strip off a layer of management usually. I think I can probably engineer redundancy here. If I can, that'll be great. I'll take it. And if I can't, then so what? Yeah. And I like the people I would have been working with, because Cumbria and Lancashire merged. Right. And I knew all the Lancashire lot at my level. Yeah. And they're all very, very nice people. Some of them came to the Preston. I did Preston Waterstones, and some of them came to that. And that's exactly what happened. I got the opportunity. And my boss at the time said, "Can you give me a year?" I said, "Yeah, I'll give you a year." It was like that. I mean, as soon as I made the decision, I just wanted to go. Out. Yeah. And I just couldn't concentrate on anything. And I didn't have an agent or anything at this time. I had a publishing deal, my very first publishing deal, which were a very small publisher. But that was it. I mean, certainly I was making, my first royalty check was like $2,000 or something. Right. I mean, it certainly wasn't enough to support me. But I reckon I had about 3 years worth of savings. I could, if I lived sensibly. And I was married by then, so I mean, I didn't want my wife to have to work extra or anything like that. Yeah. So I thought, I'll give it 3 years. By then, I'll just go back to social work if it hasn't paid off. But as soon as I'd give her I said, I'll give you a year. And then I was at one meeting, and Penny, my boss, says, you want to go, don't you? And I said, I do. She said, right, well, I'll need to check with the board and things like that, but we'll get you out as soon as we can. And I was out in about 4 weeks. I was out.
So was Penny your wife?
No, there was my boss at that time, my new boss when we merged with Lancashire. Right. A lovely woman, Penny Barker, really, really knowledgeable. So I keep in touch, and she's last time I saw her, actually, actually, last time I saw her was in Huddersfield. She came to one of my events. The time before, she was staying in Penrith, so I came to one of the bars and the pubs in Penrith. We had a couple of drinks. So yeah, I made that decision, and so I left in September 2015.
Right.
And
that's when you became a full-time writer.
Became a full-time writer with nothing to write.
Yeah.
I didn't have a contract or anything. But by then, I had met my future agent at a writing event at the start of 2015. I'd given him a copy of the book.
Yeah.
That had just been published.
Yeah.
Born in the Burial Ground, the first fluke series, published by Caffeine Nights under the name Mike Craven.
Right.
Which is why I'm called MW now, because I was already published under Mike. They wouldn't publish me under that.
Yeah.
And he got in touch with me about a month after I'd left probation. Said, I'm telling a lie. He read it and he said, next time you've written something, please do send it to me.
Yeah.
So I left in September, and I think I sent it to him probably late September, the next book in the series. He didn't get back to me for ages. Until December, actually, with an email saying, I can't take you on because the sales of your first series haven't been... I love the book, I love the first book, but the sales have been terrible because of the independent publisher.
Yeah.
Same problem India probably has, that you've got no visibility. So I can't sell it to a big publisher because they look at the same figures I'm looking at.
Yeah.
They all have access to the same data. If you want to talk about it, that's absolutely fine. So you give us my number, and usually I would have just emailed back. So that's fine. That's what I was expecting. Most people get knocked back by an agent, but for some reason, I thought I'm going to call them because we had quite a good laugh at this workshop we'd been to in March in Gretna, and over that course, I didn't talk him round because I wasn't saying, "Oh, go and take me."
Yeah.
He kind of talked himself round, and he said when I said, "Oh, I'll give you a call by then," he'd consulted with some of his other fellow agents.
Yeah.
And they had said, look, if he's willing to rewrite this book as the first in a new series, then you can market it as a new series.
Yeah.
So he said, it's a lot of work though. And I said, well, I'm not scared of work.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And he said, well, if you do that, then I'll sign you. So I signed with Dave, which is, you don't realise at the time what a big thing getting an agent is, because they can knock on doors that you can't, that you don't even know exist.
I bet it's like going back to the early days of the rock and roll music.
It would be, because they're the gatekeepers.
Yeah. I've got a record deal, wouldn't it? It'd be like the same sort of thing.
But getting an agent is much harder than getting a publishing deal, because there's so many publishers out there now, and you can self-publish, and there's a lot of little independents. Because it's so cheap to publish, because you can just whack it up on Amazon. A digital thing, and there's print on demand, so you don't have to bulk buy and get loads of print and things like that.
So getting the agent is
because they can go with the big publishers, and big publishers don't have a slush pile or anything like that. So I signed with David. Over Christmas, I thought, it's going to be easier for me just to write a new book from scratch rather than trying to adapt this book. Which he agreed. We ended up sending the existing book I'd sent him, that he'd said to adapt, to the same publisher. They published it in 2017, which was Body Breaker. And then I wrote what would become The Puppet Show. Right. And that's how it kind of started. And he got me a deal with Little Brown. Quite a small deal comparatively to what we're getting now. And enough people bought it for them to want another deal. And the next deal was bigger. Yeah. And then I think we're on about deal number 5 now, and it's getting into like. So
it almost runs parallel with the music industry, doesn't it?
It does. There's a lot of similarities.
Do an album, you've got to do another album. You've got to do another album. So
and if it does well, then they want same but different. Kind of thing. And
so how about I'm jumping the gun a bit now, because I was going to ask you where your first sort of seeds of creativity sort of started from, but how is when they're kind of like, I don't know, is the pressure on? Let's say, for instance, the pressure's on to write the next book. How do you feel? Have you constantly got a shitload in the back of your mind that is coming? Or...
Yeah, the way I work, I'm kind of planning the next book as I'm writing the current book. Oh yeah, that's just the way I work. Yeah, and it's helpful actually because I can seed things into one book that will be relevant for the next book.
The next, yeah.
So, for example, in Black Summer, the second book, I had Flynn. D.I. Stephanie Flynn in a bad mood throughout the whole book. Right. And my editor said, well, I don't really get this. I said, well, she's pregnant. And he said, well, why don't you just... I said, well, her pregnancy is going to be a big thing in the next book. So I can't just like drop it in at the start of the next book.
Yeah.
Because if you're reading, I kind of take the view that a lot of people become the series new.
Yes.
And be reading them all one after the other.
So
you want that ebb and flow, and you want things to naturally progress. You want it to be a coherent story across the series as well. Yeah. So I kind of doing that. A lot of people don't do that, and that's absolutely fine as well. There's no right way to.
But I read an author called Alex Hill. I don't know if you've ever come across him. It sounds very similar to your kind of characters. DCI Kett is his guy. It's all based in Norfolk and sort of that sort of area. Exactly the same sort of thing. Kind of dysfunctional cop type. That maverick type cop. There's not necessarily the same sort of relationship that Tilly and Poe have got, but there's another. She's a sergeant, but she's having more of a relationship with this other guy. But anyway, there's like the story. Each individual book is a story in its own right, but then there's like an underlying story going through them all as well. And then when you read them, I think I stumbled across one, and then I had to go right back to the beginning because you could read it in its own right, but you knew you were missing out on so many of the characters before, and so it was like you go back to the beginning, and it's exactly like you say, you become kind of immersed in those characters, and you begin to laugh with them, you cry with them, you kind of the whole gamut of emotions goes through the whole lot of you as you learn more about those characters. Yeah,
I mean, some of my favourites. I mean, I'll pick up in fact, I did it last year, an author called Robert Crace, an American author. And I'd known about him for ages because we're right next to each other on the bookshelf, Crace and Craven. I picked up his first book, The Monkey's Raincoat, loads of times. I thought, I haven't got time. But I mainly read American fiction. I thought, I'm going to give it a go, so I bought it. Absolutely loved it. And I went through the entire series, all 19 books, one after the other, bang, 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 bang. That exact same thing. And it ebbed and flowed, and he was in a relationship, and then he wasn't, and then he was back on again, and some characters develop, and all these things. The perfect series.
Isn't it?
And he's got a new one out in August, but it's just been put back to January next year, so I'm absolutely furious about that.
That's it as well, because you're waiting for the next book, because you get to that thing, and I don't know about you, but when the book's really good, I'm reading it like 100 miles an hour, like bloody hell. And then it's like, and then you're at the end, and you know it's the last book, and the next one's not coming out for 6-9 months, a year later, and it's like,
because I'm on a book a year. I mean, that's what my contract is. But I mean, last year there wasn't a Poe and Tilly book last year because Fearless was out.
Yeah.
So for my diehard readers, they've had a 2-year wait. Between the botanist and the
Mercy Chair has just gone.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, the tours have been absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said, "Why did you write the American series?
Yeah.
Why did you interrupt that thing? They're quite cross."
You're not going to have a misery incident, are you?
Well, yeah. I mean, the amount of people that say if you do anything to Tilly,
we're going to kidnap you. So where did the seeds of creativity start? Would you say? Can you pinpoint the time?
I mean, I tell people because you can learn to write.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can get better at.
Yeah.
And you should get better. Every book should be better than the last book. Otherwise, you're not learning. If they're not, then you need to pack it in, really, or write a new series or something. So you can learn the craft of writing. You can get better. Your prose can improve, and you'll develop a style. Yeah. But you can't learn how to have an imagination.
No. Yeah.
And you can't learn how to have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
You've either got them or you haven't.
Yeah.
And I, I've got both. I mean, I find humour in virtually everything.
More on the darker side, would you say?
I do laugh at things that nobody else laughs at.
Do you think that's from that military background as well?
No, it was.
Do you know? Like was it always like that? Was it?
I mean, I've been in the army, didn't help.
Just honed it slightly.
I just find things just. I went to South Lakes Animal Park.
Right.
I don't think it's still open now. And they had this special
thing with the tigers in.
Well, it was the tiger pen, but this quite rare breed of tiger.
Right.
It might be Sumatran tigers or something like that. There's very few left.
Yeah.
And the guy who owned it would come out and he'd do like a talk to everyone. Before they come on, and you said we put our the meat on top of telegraph poles.
Yeah, they still do, don't they? Yeah.
He said because if they if the tiger isn't, if the tigers will just eat.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of effort to get with that pole, so they won't do it unless they're hungry. So it's a way of keeping them lean. It keeps the tendons, and they've had autopsies done, and they have the same muscle structure as tigers in the wild.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff like that. And he said, and the tiger will come out, and they'll prowl up and down the fence.
Yeah.
And he said they're not just like showing off; they are looking for food. It was very interesting. They're huge, and like they're quite scary, even though like there's like 2 fences in between you. But so and then one of them just like cocked his leg and just did this massive like fire hydrant burst of piss everywhere over this one woman. Just got a face full like, and it'll be like a marking territory, kind of thing. And it just comes out like it's not like a whittle.
It's a geezer.
Yeah, it's just like incredible amount of pressure. So she's just looking around like fucking
covered in tiger piss.
And the crowd just went silent.
Apart from you.
Apart from one person who just burst out laughing. And my girlfriend at the time was around me, stop that. I couldn't help it. I just found it hilarious. So I will laugh at the most inappropriate things as well. And once I start, if I get into that thing, I thought I shouldn't be laughing at this. Oh shit, I'm going to start laughing.
You do. You have to sort of tell yourself that, because I'm very similar.
Yeah, but then I have to walk out because I can't. And sometimes I just say inappropriate things anyway. And I've kind of got a little internal rule. If I think it's funny, then I've got to say it.
Yeah.
Hang the consequences. I remember I was chairing a MAPA 3 meeting. Now, a multi-agency protection arrangement. So that's like that's the way dangerous offenders are managed. Right. There's 3 levels. 1 is quite localised. 2 is quite a serious thing. MAPA level 3 is a senior management from various agencies. It has to be people who can allocate resources. Right. So it has to be chief superintendent or above. Has to be at a certain level of like assistant director level of children's services, that kind of thing. So I was chairing it because I was the assistant chief.
Yeah.
And there's this sex offender who was coming to the hostel.
Right.
And he was on crutches and he was quite infirm. He'd been in prison a long time, so he was a child sex offender. Yeah. And we were looking at, because it's not like a hotel, they have to do programs and rehabilitation kind of things. Yeah. So what we're going to do with this guy, saying to Clive, who took over my job as manager of the hostel. And he was saying, we can do this and do that. So he said, but one of the big things at the time was the allotment. There was the probation allotment. They used to send offenders down to the allotment. They grow potatoes and stuff, and it was all very positive. Yeah. And he said, well, we can't have him down the allotment because he can't move. So that's so he could be a scarecrow. I just burst out with it. And the meeting just erupted. It was one of those things I thought I was like, people just laughing their heads off. And this chief super from the police just like was like uncontrollable laughter to a point she had to go out, called Kim Fulton, and she had to go out, and then she'd come back in, and then she'd just look at me and she'd go, I'm sorry, and she was like beat faced, and she'd have to go out again. And it was about half an hour before the meeting started again. There was one puce-faced arsehole from Children's Services, this social worker actually. He didn't laugh. Yeah, he was just looking like, I thought, when the complaint comes in, you're the one who's going to make it. I didn't hear anything. People still talk about that scarecrow remark, because there was about 30 people there.
But that's it, like you say, imagination. Some people, I don't know what happens to them in their life, because we're all born with an imagination, and some people, they get to a certain age and they just stop using it, don't they?
I think there's the creative part of the brain and there's the analytical part of the brain, and you train yourself to use one more than the other. So my wife is very much uses the analytical side of it. So she is a bookkeeper by trade. I mean, she works full time for the book business now. So she does the books and things. She proofs all my work because I don't have that brain that I can just study each line and spot the spell mistakes.
Yeah, so Wendy said to, is it Joanne your work? Yeah, she said, because she tattooed her up, and she'd said about a book, and Joe said she'd proofread it for her, didn't she?
Yeah, she did, and she did. So she's going through Po8 now. She's going through one of the early drafts, and then she'll go straight into Po7. We've got the final PDFs to sign off. and there'll be about 4 or 5 different versions of that because they go to the professional proofreaders and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's typeset and you can't do any big changes. Right. It's basically just finding.
So are you a typewriter or you're not pen and paper?
I was pen and paper. Probation, I learned how to type. Right. Well, I kind of just got faster. I didn't do any courses or anything, but I can touch type now without actually.
So without looking, you can do 2 things.
I tend to look. I'm quicker when I don't.
So it's the same with everything. The more you do it, the better you become at it.
Yeah, it is. So I can actually type faster than I can write, which is handy. And I'm getting faster anyway because I know the characters better. I know the stories. I know what people want. So I mean, the first draft of Poe 8 took me 38 days, which is pretty fast. For the curator, it took me 9 months. So that's the kind of comparison we're looking at there.
So how many people? Because I know certain bits I've only just started the first book, and there was a little bit in it, and it was on about some guys had been to Cumbria to do some terrorist training, and they were off. Were they doing They were doing surveillance on them or something, and But anyway, I thought that actually did happen. Because I know there's a mate of mine. Yeah,
there was. I know there was IRA activity in Whitehaven. I know they came across.
No, this was not ISIS, but the ones before ISIS.
Oh yeah, okay. They did some training in the woods, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did I mention that in the public show? Did I?
Well, I'm sure you did. Yeah.
I possibly did. Yeah.
I've only been probably chapter 4, and it was up to there, and I can't think what it was. Were they doing something, and they said you basically just touched on it, and I thought, I wonder how much real life stories he puts into his books.
I do. I mean, they're all real locations. They're all. If it's not exploitative, then I'll use it. In fact, for the Mercy Chair, actually, I was told to take 2 things out, which I thought. I thought they weren't libelous.
Right,
but
they didn't want to.
They had to do a legal. So if you insist on keeping them in, you can, but then it has to go through a legal check, and that's about like
a lot more.
Adds about $4,000 to the book budget, which is $4,000 that will come out the marketing budget kind of thing. And I thought for the sake of changing a couple of words, so it was I mentioned the Keswick Convention, the religious convention.
Right,
I hadn't been negative about it, and what I'd said about them, I had taken directly from a church report about the Keswick Convention, about how the convention goers don't spend money in the same way that tourists do. So they don't spend as much money in the pubs, for example.
It's quite common knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah. So I changed it from the Keswick Convention to the convention.
Yeah.
And that was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah, so I mean, that was nice. And also, I'd said something about the Westboro Baptist Church.
Right.
Again, factual stuff. I'd said they're a prescribed hate group. They're not allowed in the UK, which is factually true.
Yeah.
And again, they just got a bit angsty. Well, I'd post saying they're a bunch of arseholes, but I mean, that's just an opinion. I thought that was fine. So I just changed it to, I can't remember what I changed it to now. Because I mean...
Because how much research do you do? Do you do a lot, or do you just know a lot of the area?
I know a lot.
Because I didn't realise there were so many stone circles.
No, I researched that. I kind of found that by accident.
Because we all know the classic ones. And, and then it was like, when he said it was like
63 or whatever it is. And if you count the hinges, the barrows and the standing stones, it's about 1,000.
Yeah.
So in Cumbria, in the day, was like, and it kind of is the centre of the island, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you add Scotland, because
the whole
Scotland is just as big as England when you look at landmass.
And it's not until you actually start driving up here you realise how big it is, isn't it?
So I kind of know a lot anyway. So Shapwell's where Poe
lives.
Our probation conferences, annual conferences were held there. So I sort of pre-knew that, and I knew it was a prisoner of war camp. So I thought, well, that's as good a place as any. Yeah. I don't need to go out there.
Yeah.
These days I'm starting to needing to do a little bit of research. I've run out of places.
Yeah.
And plus people want their villages and towns mentioned, and a week doesn't go by. Can you mention like my uncle has a banana stand at Barrow Market? Can you have Poe buying a banana? Oh, Poe doesn't like exotic fruit. So you get a lot of that, and they got a John Watts in one of the books, the coffee place in
Kendal.
In
Carlisle. Is it Carlisle? Oh yeah.
They might have somewhere in Kendal as well, because they're branching out.
Yeah.
But I had the mother of looking someone's coffee, saying, why you always talking? Why you should go to an independent? Like, I thought, like,
but he's an independent.
Well, it is independent. What you got against them? They don't
like
exist anymore. Yeah, so you get all that kind of stuff.
Malarkey.
But Poe drinks Spun Gold, Carlisle Brewing Company beer.
Yeah.
And every now and then, Alison, one of the owners, just drops off a crate. It's great. And then she'll take a load of beer mats when she's doing her rounds, and she'll drop off beer mats in all the pubs that I don't
so
go
it's
to.
continued with the beer mats throughout then?
Oh yeah.
That's never stopped.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
Well, I say it's continued. We are doing it. We did it with the botanist, so that's a couple of years ago. And we've carried on through now, and we've just got a load of Mercy Chair ones done. So we'll keep going with the Mercy Chair. And then when the third light is out next year, we'll do a third light one as well. I would have thought.
So we touched on off camera earlier about like traditional publishing and sort of self-publishing, and I was asking about what sort of creative kind of input you're still allowed to have, and you was on about sometimes the titles don't get given the.
Yeah, I mean my agent says I'm rubbish at titles, which I don't think I am, because.
So do you write with the title in mind?
Yeah.
And then they change it, or is it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will submit it under a title,
and
they'll say we're not having that.
We're having this instead.
Normally they'll say come back with something else.
Do they?
And the classic one is Dead Ground, actually, which is the fourth book. It was originally supposed to be called the 13 Rat Theory, which is a song by the Oil League, because you can't copyright song titles or book titles or anything like that.
Can't you?
No. So anyone can use that. So Born in the Burial Gown is my first book, and that's a Cradle of Filth song.
Right.
Nobody's Hero is out next year. That's a Stiff Little Fingers song. Yeah. So I'm quite happy to and the same with TV. So I could actually technically you could call a book Stranger Things or things. I mean, if you couldn't, then everything basically have a password kind of title, because everything has been done before.
Yeah.
So for Dead Ground, I called it the 13 Rat Theory.
Yeah.
Which fitted, because it's got its history about some looted antiquities from Iraq.
Right.
And it's the desert rats.
Yeah.
What are now the desert rats were involved in that. There was ceramic rats left at the scene of crimes back in the UK, and rat has a criminal connotation anyway, with like snitch kind of thing. Yeah. I thought 13 Rat Theory, brilliant title.
Yeah.
They said 9 out of that. Go back and come away, and I said, right, how about the 13th rat? No, you can't compare with that. The 13th Rat Theory, okay, it does sound a bit like a Sherlock Holmes book. 13th rat doesn't. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
Said 9 out of that. And I just threw my dummy at the end of that. I said, right, you can have what I'm going to call the next book, which is going to be called Dead Ground. You can have that. I said, oh, we'll love it. I said, but it's got nothing to do with the book whatsoever. Oh, we'll love it. So let's call it Dead Ground. And I subsequently found out that sales just said we're not having rat in the title, because the supermarkets won't take it.
Right.
It's like a subliminal message thing. Like they won't just put the word rat next to. You might as well call the book the glass in the baby food book. They're just not going to have it like that. If they'd said that at the start, I would have understood.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I want to sell books as well.
Yeah.
So if they said this. Because when the paperbacks come out, supermarkets are a large part of the
sales,
the book, because they buy it by tens of thousands, kind of stuff. So I thought, well, if you just said that instead of just being awkward ourselves.
I wonder if that's a new thing, because James Herbert never had that problem, did he? Back in the 80s.
No, they did. Well, the rats in the lair and things like that. And I mean, that's just I don't know.
Maybe, who knows? Mind you, it would have been weird to call it anything else, but being as the whole book was about killer rats.
Yeah, you'd be struggling. We probably had the same thing, but it was James Herbert by then. And he had a big readership base anyway. The supermarkets were going to take the next James Herbert book, whatever. Yeah. Like Stephen King, he could call a book the baby food poison. There's poison in the baby food. Don't buy it. And they would stock it, and it would go out like hotcakes. So I don't get much control. I don't get the final say. They get the final say.
Yeah.
But they try to keep me on side with everything.
Was that
particularly now, because I'm making them so much money? So I mean, it's weird, the power differential. Same with my agent, actually. When I first started, I wasn't making them any money.
Right.
because I didn't have any books out to start with, because I was an unpublished author. Well, I had 2 tiny books, but he wasn't involved in them.
Yeah.
So he got me a small deal with Little Brown, and so the power differential, I was pretty much tiptoeing around David, because he was like
the god,
he was
almost.
like yeah. And I tried not to email him, and then if he didn't email me, if I did email him and he didn't email back,
you were thinking, oh shit.
I was like, how long do I leave it? But as I'm making more money, then he's more receptive to my things. And now we WhatsApp each other every day, and fuck off, things like that. And I'll ring him up and I'll say, what the fuck do you want? And I'll say, oh, fuck off. It's just that kind of relationship. We're mates now. We always go out for dinner when we're out, and we argue who pays and things like that. So he took us to the Shard, this like Chinese restaurant in the Shard, when we were up in London in May, and then we took them. That was on the first day of Capital Crime, the festival. And on the last day, we took them out to this nice fish restaurant. So we kind of have that thing. But to say we're publishers as well, when you are just starting out, because everything's money driven.
Yeah.
They're like, you basically take what they're offering.
Yeah.
Now, when for the last book they offered what they offered, and he said no. David just said no. He said, I'm not even. He said, I'm not even going to put that offer to Mike, because everything goes through him. So they came out with another offer, and he said, I'll go to Mike, but potentially
not.
Because the all book contracts have an option book.
Yeah.
Now the option book is basically so they can buy the next book in the series. So another publisher, they don't do all the work. Another publisher jumps in and then gets like the Stephen King kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in the UK, the option book, it's just they get 60 days to negotiate a deal for the next book.
Right.
And if they don't, then you can go elsewhere with it. You can market it. You can see if there's another publisher who wants it. And that's the kind of position that we're at now. My publisher knows that if they don't negotiate with me, then other publishers will definitely snap me up, because each book is getting bigger and bigger. So we're in a very powerful position now, which is a nice place.
Yeah,
nice place to be. And it means that David will take my calls every hour. But he also gets approaches by, and I was saying, look, I was approached by, and I'm not going to say who, but a big organisation to do some work for them. Very exciting, but that's the kind of thing that happens now. Yeah. And then David fields that call, and then he says to me, "What do you think? Have you got time?" I said, and I'll say yes or no. Things like that. I said, well, we'll at least so we had a Zoom call with them yesterday, and I'm gonna write actually, I already had something I can adapt actually, which will work very well. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll write a synopsis and key characters and a plan, and then we'll take it from there, which is a lovely position to be in.
Yeah, because what's the crack with Netflix?
Well, with Fearless, so this is before I wrote Fearless. It wasn't called Fearless then. No. It was called, I think it was called A Different Kind of Animal.
Right.
Then it was called A Man Apart. And then it was called Nobody's Hero.
Right.
To the point it didn't actually get called Fearless until after it had been bought.
Yeah.
I wrote it when I was still on probation.
Right.
So before I left in 2015.
Right.
And purely to write something in the first person.
Yeah.
So all my I'd only written the 2 Fluke books by then, which were third person, past tense, which most books are, because you're telling. It goes back to the natural way of telling stories, as in Harry the Caveman. He invented the wheel, then he got eaten by a big elephant.
Yeah.
Probably didn't happen. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Elephants don't eat people. They stand on them, don't eat them. But that's just the natural way of telling. The other way of telling stories is first person, past tense as well. Yeah. So if that happened to you, so I was out with Harry, and we got charged by an elephant, and then the elephant ate Harry. Yeah. So he's telling from his perspective. Yeah. So I want to write that story.
Yeah.
There's a modern trend now for writing first person, present tense, which I don't like. So I did this and I did that.
Yeah.
I do that. I do this. I drink. Not I drank, I drink, I go to the fridge, I go to the fridge and I turn the kettle on, which I don't particularly like, but it's quite a popular way of writing that.
Right. Yeah.
But I wanted to write something in the first person, past tense. And I was reading a lot of Jack Reacher books at the time. So I thought I'll just do an action thriller
thing,
purely for my own.
Just almost to get it in his system.
Kind of just to see how easy it was. Turns out it wasn't. I kept on splitting tenses actually. I kept on, like, some of it would be present tense and it was a mess. But I kept on going back to this thing. Hence I had so many titles. Every time I went back I would just change the title of it. And I said to David, and I said, what about this? And he said, no, let's just concentrate on Portland. It Poe's done really well. It's building, you're going in exactly the direction. We don't put a spanner in the works by introducing a new series.
Yeah.
But my publisher, during COVID, just before COVID started, they'd had to buy my first series of Caffeine Nights.
Right.
The Fluke series.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want another publisher getting the benefit of their marketing. So they hoovered up all my books.
Yeah.
So my editor emailed me during the first lockdown and said, have you written anything I've not read? Just make sure there's nothing going to come back that they're going to have to pay like 200 grand for, something later on down there. So I said, well, I've got this stupid thing that David says I'm not allowed to show you. But
but you can have a look anyway.
You can have it. So they tagged it on the end of one of the Poe contracts. Didn't pay a lot of money for it. And that was that. They were going to publish it under a different name just to get it out so that nobody else could have it. And they were going to put out paperback only, January release. Yeah. Just like that. So I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. So I edited it a little bit. I did a light touch edit with because I've been working with some good editors by then. So I took about 10,000 words off it. I made it better. But then an American editor who was a big Poe fan, but couldn't buy the Poe series. She couldn't work out how to buy a book mid-series when she could only come in at a late stage, and they wouldn't have the debut buzz. And a lot of American readers were used to getting were buying it from British shops. So she was a fan of mine, and she heard that I had this new book, a new series, which she was able to get in on the ground. So she asked to see it. And then we had by then I was writing another book actually set in America. Yeah. Which I've now finished and David's got, and he's now pimping it out like the whore he is. So she said, I'd like a Zoom call with Mike if that's okay. So we did. She said, I think I'd like to buy it, but it needs a lot of work for our market because I want it as the start of a series, not the standalone it clearly is now. I don't think you'll want to do this work. I convinced her to try and hang on for this book set in New York I was writing, but no, I want this. So I agreed to do the work, and it took me about 6 months actually to completely rewrite this book and add things in, increase the pace, and it became a much better book because of it. So I'm very, very grateful. The missing link in all this is I don't know how we went from that to what I'm about to tell you. So it was June or July 22. I was up for an award. Yeah. The Steel Dagger, Ian Fleming Steel Dagger for Dead Ground. Yeah. And we're down in London, and it's a big black tie event, and we're sat around a big round table. David's about 3 or 4 people away. I'm sat beside my publicist. Joanne's there. There's someone else there, and just everyone's getting jolly and listening to the speeches and things like that. And I'm kind of waiting for the Steel Dagger, which is the second to last one to be announced, because it's the Gold Dagger's the last one, which I'd won for the puppet show, but the Steel Dagger, and I wasn't expecting to win, but I never am. And then David just turned around to me and said, when's the copy editing going to be done on Fearless, do you think? Because it was called Fearless by then, because American said, this is the title that we want if you're okay. So everything got changed back in the UK just to get synergy. And I said, probably by the end of next week. Why? So there's like 37 movie production studios are waiting for it.
37?
Yeah.
Fucking
It was 30 something. I can't remember what it was.
Fucking hell.
Then he turned around and started chatting to the person next to him. And then the speeches started again. And me and Joanne looking, does he just say? Come on, let's have some more information. But then Dead Ground won. And
so up you get.
Did my speech, which is mainly apologising for the last speech, and got back and the champagne was popping, and it kind of slipped my mind. I got incredibly drunk actually. Yeah, I had to be carried back to the hotel by the chief constable of Sussex Police. But because he was he's a writer as well. Graham Bartlett, good mate of mine. But so on the train back, really hungover, and then I said, "Did David seen that thing?" Yeah, and she said, "Yeah, that was a bit weird, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I'll email him." And he said, "Oh yeah." So I emailed him. He said, "Yeah, this is what." And I said, "Well, how's that happened?" And he said, "I don't know." But they're all waiting for it. So I think my American editor had just let it slip.
Yeah.
That there's an action thriller coming out you might be interested in. So I did the copy editing, which is basically the final stage that I really do anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's quite easy. Most of the work's been done. You're approving changes to the text and things like that.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been typeset at that point. So, but once the copy editing, so it's just the proofreading, which is just I don't do the proofreading anyway. Joanne does it because I can't do it. And so I sent it off on the Friday, which is the day I said I would send it off. Actually, I think I got it in the Thursday night. On the Friday, David's TV agent, a lady called Emily Hayward Whitlock, lovely woman, she sent it off to every production company that had expressed interest.
Yeah.
By Monday, it had like 17 firm offers.
No way.
It was incredible. Like
so, then are they just sort of whoever gives the highest gets it?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I thought because I said, is it like an auction? She said, well, there'll be a bit of that, but really it'll come down to who's partnered with who. Because she said, if you have a look, Warner Brothers have got like 3 different bids in because they don't make films themselves. They basically So she said, what we'll do, we will chat to each of them as we're going along. So Netflix came in, but quite low actually comparatively, and they went back, said, this is, just to let you know, this is a lot lower than the others are coming in now. And he said, well, that's very handy just to cut through. This is our bid. And it was a lot of money. But there was a lot of them putting in a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we were at Harrogate actually for the Harrogate Crime Festival.
Right.
Which is a Thursday to Sunday thing.
Yeah.
And it was my mother-in-law's 70th.
Right.
So they were there then, and we'd hired like this like breakfast room in the hotel on the Saturday morning, and Emily had arranged for the bids to be in by midnight on the Friday. Final bids, best bids.
Yeah.
As in,
this is it, shit'll bust.
Yeah. You can't come back and then say, oh well, if I knew that, yeah. So do your worst. So of course, midnight Friday is 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of our breakfast and swapping presents with my mother-in-law and things like that. And
bing, bing, bing.
It's exactly that. So the WhatsApp things are starting to come in. And David's in his hotel because he's at Harrogate as well. Emily's actually abroad.
Fuck it out.
Emily's abroad, and like they're all coming in, and then in the end, like Mary said, "Oh, let's have the present. Just tell us." Like, so there was 9 firm offers in, all within the ballpark.
Yeah.
And so we had a bit of a laugh about the kind of money involved.
Yeah.
And then Emily says, "Right, the next stage is to set up some creative meetings." Which will be Zoom. They'll all be in LA, so you're just going to have to do some night shifts, Mike. Yeah. They're going to pitch their company to you, their vision, blah, 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 blah. I'll sit in on the meeting just to make sure you basically, you're not getting hounded or bullied or anything like that.
Yeah.
So Emily was asking all the questions and the things like that, and I was like, who are you going to cast? Like that. And we narrowed out to 4 in the end. So I said, you need to make a decision. I said, right, I don't want to meet with Paramount.
Right.
Because if it's going to be a TV series, I don't want to go with Paramount. Because I didn't have Paramount TV. I do now, actually, but I didn't at the time. But then Channing Tatum, who had partnered with Paramount, said, well, I want to meet him.
Right.
So I ended up having this meeting with Channing Tatum, which I didn't particularly want to be there. And he's like,
is this live or Zoom?
Yeah, it's all live. Oh, Zoom. Sorry.
Yeah.
With his producer, his business partner, who did Black Sails and a few other things like that. I mean, one of the companies that bid but didn't bid enough was Steven Spielberg's company. So we actually said no to Steven Spielberg. He didn't actually get in the door. So we met with, I think it was 9 in the end. And then Emily said, right, you need to start narrowing it down.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. And then David said, well, I can't. This is a decision for you.
So it was all literally down to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I felt vastly underqualified to do that. And David says, look, well, do you think it should be a TV series or a film? And I said, a TV series, I think. He said, well, right, okay, that's helpful. You've got rid of quite a few then.
Yeah.
And then Emily was saying, I think these are the two the interesting creative ones. There was Disney had partnered with, I can't remember who it was in the end, but they had the screenwriter lined up. We had a great meeting with Disney. Someone called Bert, he was swearing his head off. It was just hilarious. Really good chemistry.
Yeah.
The guy really senior with Warner Brothers, like the vice president of Warner Brothers, he was furious when
you teached him?
Yeah, he rang up Emily and said,
"How dare you?"
Yeah,
really.
Honestly, he was furious. And Netflix had partnered up with 21 Laps, who make Stranger Things for them. And in the end, he said, "Right, Disney or Netflix? Who do you want it?" And I said, "Well,
what's literally flip a coin."
It was basically I could have went either way, and I would have been equally happy. We went with Netflix in the end.
Yeah.
And they've been very good, and they're paying a lot of money, and they want me involved in all the stages.
Yeah.
Mainly so they could give me more, because what Emily did actually, when she went back to Netflix, when they were saying we want to be involved, we're desperate to get this.
Yeah.
And David Harbour, who is he's on Stranger Things as Hop. He's quite a famous actor.
Right. Yeah.
He was desperate to play Ben Koenig.
Right.
He was trying to put a deal together himself.
Hop, is he the dad in Stranger Things?
He's the police officer.
Police cop. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was in The Equalizer, and he's a big actor.
Yeah.
And he's married to Lily Allen.
Is he?
But he was desperate. He was trying to put a deal together himself, actually.
Just to get it.
Yeah, but then he ended up saying to Sean, somebody with Stranger Things, the 21 Laps, he was like messaging him all the time, and he was like showing me the things. So I've had another thing from David. Have you got it yet? Have you got it yet? I got it. So Emily was able to say to Netflix, look, we've had, because they pay an option fee, which is just a lump sum, which they don't get back. They give to me. Then it's a purchase fee when they start making it, kind of thing, which is normally the option fee is normally a percentage of the purchase price.
Yeah.
And then you get episode fees, and you get other fees and things like that, and you get a percentage of the back end and profits and things. And the executive producer thing, they hadn't really mentioned being executive producer, but Warner Brothers and Disney and Disney were offering like a lot of money per episode to be an executive producer. So anyway, you have to match that.
Yeah.
You have to match Warner Brothers' purchase price. Yeah. You have to match Disney's executive producer price. We basically got the best, and they were saying, yeah, just give us it. We actually got 10% of the door if it gets made into a stage play. Emily says, I've never had more than 0.5%, but you've got I think I've got 12% or something like that.
That's insane.
I mean, it'll never get made into a thing, but that's the kind of thing we'll just
potentially, I mean, it's a good move, because obviously a TV series usually end up becoming films, or can become a film as well, can't they?
Well, I mean,
it's unlikely to happen the other way around, isn't it?
It's a weird thing, because I mean, every single person that we met with had their their data nerds with like graphs and saying this is what our TV shows and films do to books.
Yeah.
And they had like graphs. So such and such, like which Bridgerton, which is a series of books as well. This is how the thing has just went through, and lessons in chemistry and blah 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 blah. Yeah. That's a bad example, because that came after, but that would be a good example. Yeah. I mean, it went to number 1, lessons in chemistry, again after the TV series came out. It was all about selling books for me anyway. I mean, the TV stuff was never an ambition of mine, but I was enjoying the process. Yeah. And I enjoy these chats. Now we've got a chat tonight. Some of it, it's just me and the exec, and they're bringing up to speed on screenwriters and things.
So you're not involved now in the screenwriting process?
No. They hired. They went through a very rigorous selection process, and they hired a guy called Robert Levine,
right,
who wrote a series for Disney called The Old Man,
right,
and he adapted a film, a book by Dennis Lehane for Hollywood called Gone Baby Gone, and he's had some other credit. Big screenwriter. Yeah. Then they sacked him because he just wasn't getting what they wanted. So they're taking the time doing it. So most of the meetings are about where they're at and that point.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm introduced to others and things like that. So I actually don't know what the
there's no time scale yet. Is it just?
Well, the time scale is October. When it comes to October, because they've optioned it for 18 months. In 18 months, the option runs out, so that means they'll have to re-option it, which is great news because I get the same money again. And I don't even have to pay this back. The first option fee gets taken off the purchase price. So just say the purchase price was $1 million, and the option fee was like 100 grand.
Yeah.
If they go and purchase it, then you get 900. You 900 grand because they've already had 100.
Yeah.
If they have to re-option it, you get another 100 grand.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get taken off the purchase price. Yeah. So it's basically just free money. So yeah, I'm fingers crossed. And the post series is actually the re-option is up in next month actually. So if that gets re-optioned, that'll just be a big chunk of change.
Same again for the States?
No, it was a UK company. There's a mate of mine actually was desperate. He's a screenwriter. He's an author, but he's partnered up with a smallish production company, but a very good track record. They don't take on many projects.
Yeah.
So they sort of wined and dined me, and they took us out to London. And because we just had a Netflix thing, we were cash rich, and I thought, well, go on, I'll let you have a.
Yeah.
I'll see what you can do with it. And if it doesn't come to anything, it doesn't.
I suppose as well, you're in that unique position now because I imagine a lot of these production companies, they're always looking for something. Because I mean, as much as your publishers and your agent want to sell books, they want to sell TV shows, don't they?
Yeah. So it is, and I mean the Fearless. I mean, I think it came out just at the time that Reacher had come out on Prime,
right? Yeah.
And that had been a massive hit for Amazon, and they were all looking for their own kind of thing, and it just that sweet spot.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to my American editor about Fearless, when she was saying, I'd like to buy it, but it needs its changes. And I was saying, well, I'm writing something else set in the States. Why don't you wait for that? And she was saying, no, I want Fearless. I've actually written that book now. I finished it. I've had time to finish it. It's called 101 Ways to Die in New York City. And it's kind of like a comedic take on a failed writer who gets involved in a spy caper.
Right.
It's quite violent. Yeah. It's a typical me, but there's a lot of humour in it.
Yeah.
So that is with my agent now. It's with my editor in the UK now. It's with my editor in the US. And he's just had a big meeting with the TV people, so they're desperate to get involved as soon as it's been bought by a public. It's easier to sell a book rather than just an unpublished manuscript.
I suppose now.
So that'll go through that process, and that will get options. I just know it will because it's kind of a cross between Only Murders in the Building and Slow Horses and American Fiction, the film American Fiction, which is just won an Oscar, I think. So that'll do well.
I suppose you're at the position now where it's just going to snowball, isn't it? Because you're going to be like flavour of the month for now.
And also, they know they can't just... Because the puppet show was optioned in 2017 by Studio Lambert, a whole year before it was even out.
Wow.
And they offered us pennies, and we had to take it because Joe and I had no money coming in. We had still our savings, but the business itself was down to about last 800 quid or something. Right. And they offered 10 grand for it. And Emily tried to get more.
Yeah.
And they said, no, take it or leave it. So I had to take it. Now, they wouldn't...
They wouldn't come through the door.
They wouldn't just know because they
couldn't afford it.
They just, if you're not taking it seriously, if you're not taking it seriously, they wouldn't even put it to me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't get through.
So with your Yankee and your American books, where did you do this? Did you go over and research, or did you just do it all online?
I did most of it online.
Did you? Because you've obviously been to the States.
I've been to America a few times, but not the areas
that you've sent the books in.
That I thought it was going to be in Vegas. It didn't work out for Vegas.
Right.
It was Texas and Washington. I've been to neither of those places, and it's kind of got its connotations in probation. I had an offender who had tried to kill himself, paracetamol overdose, failed. I'd left him with an acquired brain injury.
Right.
So he couldn't regulate his emotions particularly well, or his sweat actually. So suddenly he just stood like drenched in sweat for no reason that you could tell. And I researched acquired brain injuries because it was quite interesting. I came across this one. I won't embarrass myself by trying to pronounce it, but it's the part of your brain that regulates the fight or flight response.
Right. Yeah.
It's incredibly rare, and most people who get it, they oversensitize to fear desperately. So that in the end, they become, because it's a progressive degenerative disease, and they become, it's not fatal, but they become terrified of everything, and they become shut-ins.
Right, yeah.
They're too terrified to leave the apartment. But in incredibly rare cases, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 documented cases in the world, it goes the other way, and they lose the fear factor completely. There was a very famous case in New York with this woman who kept on getting mugged.
Yeah.
And they couldn't understand, because although she was completely sensible, they just couldn't understand why she was always getting mugged. Yeah. And it was when New York was quite a stabby, rapey place, and she was just walking. She had no sense of fear, she couldn't do risk assessments.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that women shouldn't be allowed to walk where they want, but common sense says if there's an alley with 2 gangs fighting, or a guy in there with a Mac, like rubbing himself through his pocket, just carry on walking like anything. But she wouldn't.
Right.
And I've kind of said if there was a lion in an alley, an escaped lion, she would just walk down it. If that was the way that she was going, she would walk down it anyway, because it just wouldn't comprehend that. That's something you're supposed to be terrified of. So, I mean, obviously fear's a survival thing. I mean, the people who got scared of lions are the ones who didn't get eaten by lions.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the man-eating elephants. Yeah,
exactly.
So I kind of worked my thrill around that, which was a unique hook for them, for the publisher, and it's taken off, and it's been bought by a lot of foreign publishers now. So it was out in Japan quite recently, in Denmark, and
so a lot of your, I suppose, a lot of writers will have kind of things that they've used in the past, won't they? Yeah. So, but I think your unique kind of military probation.
I've
helped a lot.
Smorgasbord.
Yeah.
I keep on getting smorgasbord because my wife she's going to say you dick when I say that. I've got a whole range of things, but mainly I've just got a vivid imagination. Yeah. So plots, I can quote plots, and I mean, I co-wrote a book with Roger Lightolis, who was a journalist, called The Man with the Pigeon Tattoo. Panic as Man Burns Crumpets is his non-fiction book.
Right.
And we met in the King's Head, and we bashed out the plot in about 2 hours.
No way.
Yeah. So do this, do that, do that, and with very little variation. That's kind of what ended up on the page.
Is it?
And I've just handed it over to him because I thought I don't need to be involved in this. So he's got something quite sellable.
Yeah.
And again, that had film interest, that had TV interest straight away. Yeah. I haven't heard from them recently, so they might have cooled. But I mean, it's just the fact that Mike Craven's written something new. Let's see what it is.
Yeah.
So when 101 Ways actually gets a publishing deal, there'll be a bun fight after it. They'll be after it because it's very cinematic. I have quite a cinematic way of writing anyway. I kind of visualize it in my head, and I kind of write down what I see.
Right.
Which means it's quite cinematic in style.
Do you think has it always been like that, or do you think you're writing more like that now?
I think so.
Now you know it's happening.
But some people don't have a picture inside their head.
They don't.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
I think they don't know what you're talking, but they think you're making it up.
Yeah. It is amazing.
I was like, what do you dream about? I mean, because I have dreams that are so vivid.
I do. My wife says, God, I wish I had dreams like that. She's like, she has these little silly snippets. I have like almost movies.
Yeah, I do have sagas, like generational things about like space battles and Star Wars.
And I love going to bed for that reason because like I never know what amazing journey I'm going to go on to when I go to sleep. It's fantastic.
It's exciting. But I read every night, and I tend to dream about what I've just been reading about. So I mean, I've been a vivid reader since I've always been. I've always been a massive reader. I can't get asleep if I don't read.
No,
I just need something just to stop my brain, like a circuit break from the things I'm thinking about, which is normally writing out. I mean, at the minute I'm plotting a new book, and I'm doing world building for this new book.
Right.
World building is very much just let your imagination go mad.
Yeah. See what comes up with.
Which means my brain doesn't shut down, so I have to basically say, right, it's time. I'm reading Stephen King's new one at the minute. His short story collection, Some Like It Darker. And I've got another book on the go, and another book actually. So I've always got at least 4 or 5 books on the go. But I'm actively reading 3 books. I start with Stephen King. I read one of his short stories, or a bit of a short story if it's one of the longer ones, and I'll read another chapter, this other paperback, turn my light up, put the Kindle on, and I'll just read until I fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then I'll dream, and I'll wake up one day. Never guess what I've been dreaming of. Just shut up. Because she's not a morning person anyway. She's like, less of you in the morning, less of you. She likes to talk at night, and I was just picking my books. What do you think we should go and hold it? Just no.
Trying to read.
No. Earplugs going in.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Well, I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about Steve Harris, my super fan.
Oh, yes.
That was a weird one, because as you know, British Line were...
So did you go and see them first at the Brickyard when they played last year?
Yes, because they did 2 years in the trot.
Because they're coming again next year, aren't they? Or not? Or was it earlier this
year?
Year?
They came in 20... What year are we in now?
24.
So they came in 23.
Did they come in 23?
23, yeah. And they might have come in 22, I don't know, but I didn't see them there. Right. I saw them in 23. And because they're all big readers anyway, the Maiden guys, aren't they? So I had wrapped up a copy of The Botanist.
Right.
Paperback. Give it to Andy, because I know Andy. Who you had on, yeah. I was listening to what was Riders and stuff, like the melted Rolos and stuff. The smoked mackerel, peppered mackerel. So I'd said, look, put that on the tour bus. I just for attention to Steve Harris, and I'd signed it for him because I've actually sent a book to Bruce Dickinson actually.
Yeah.
Because I happen to one of those weird stories. I get asked to blurb a lot of the authors' books.
Right.
Some quite famous authors now. But I mean, back in a few years ago, I would get like from authors that had a debut book come out, and I'd been contacted, very polite email from this guy, said, I've got this book coming out with such and such, one of the big publishers. Yeah. Would you mind reading it? And if you like it, would you give me a quote? So I said, yeah, why not? And it was all right. Yeah. I gave him a nice quote, and he was very happy. And I was at Capital Crime the first time, so this will be back in 2019 maybe. And I was walking down the stairs, he was walking up, and I had a Maiden t-shirt on, a tour t-shirt. And he said, you Mike Craven? And I said, yeah. He said, oh, I'm such and such. He had a different name to his actual proper name, because he had like an Eastern European name with loads of Zs and things in it. But he had like just a very Mike short, it was initials and like something like Smith. Yeah. And he said, oh, I'm such and such. Thank you for your book. Can I buy you a pint? That kind of thing. So we were at the bar. He said, oh, do you like Maiden then? I said, yeah. So we've just been to see him actually. And he said, my dad's Bruce Dickinson's fencing instructor. Because he's an Olympic standard fencer, isn't he? Yeah. So I said, no, he says, yeah, I spar with him because I fence as well. Wow. He says, I spar with him. I'm good mates with him. So if you've got anything you want signed, if you send it to me, I'll take it round to Bruce next time. And I'll get it signed. And so I did. And then he said, actually, a bit of a problem. He's just divorcing his wife, and he's now living in Paris. Right. Which he was actually. I had actually found out. But I had sent him a load of like stuff to get signed, including his biography, which he'd written himself. It was an autobiography. What does this button do? I said, I'd love it if he could sign that. And I'd also give him a copy of Black Summer. Yeah. The second signed to Bruce. So when British Lion came, I'd signed the book to. But I said, look, Bruce has got one. You might as well have a book as well. Kind of. It was one of those like, cheeky on the rider. And then Andy had put it on the van, and every time I went to the toilet, his book. I said, well, you haven't done it yet. And he said, I will. And I came out one. He said, look, I've done it. It's on there now. So I said, oh, cheers. Didn't think anything more of it. And January the 2nd this year, I'm chopping onions actually in the kitchen. My eyes are like stinging. And John, have you seen that email? I said, I haven't. I said, I don't know if it's spam or not. And I'm like, oh, I can't say. And he said, I think Steve Harris has emailed you. I was like, who? Yeah, Steve Harris. What? So I was like, fucking, like, what? And he apologised that it got lost on the van. He read it, absolutely loved it. He bought the whole series. Awesome. He'd read them all. He said, I'd love it if you could be my VIP guests. He said, I don't know if you know, but I'm bringing British Lion back to the Brickyard in February. So it was in about like 3 weeks after the email. And I said, yeah, I bought the ticket the second they were out. Yeah. He said, well, I'd love if we could meet and have a chat and things like that. I was like, fucking hell. I mean, tell my agent. He said, well, I don't know who he is. He's not as big as Madonna. And I said, you
You're kidding?
Yeah. I bumped into some Maiden fans at an event. I was in Bradford recently, and they got it.
Yeah.
They knew. The Maiden fans, they can't believe. So I'd emailed. We went backwards forwards and emailed a couple of times. Then he said, "Look, if you can be here by 4 o'clock, I'll give you a VIP ticket, and you can come and watch the sound check if you want." That kind of thing.
Bring your Rolo yogurts. It was your peppered mackerel.
It was. So we did, and there was a load of Maiden fans outside getting things signed, and he was at the thing, and I was like, well, I don't know what to fucking do. And he said, I've shown my security guard, because he has a bodyguard when he goes everywhere. He knows what you look like. Just go and find him. So we ended up just joining the queue of people getting stuff signed. Because I had a copy of proof of the Mercy Chair, advance copy. Yeah. I said, if I can get him to fucking hold it, what a fucking publicity scoop that'll be like. So he kind of saw me over like 2 or 3 minutes. He was like, oh, he just sort of eyes lit up. It was weird. And so he did the thing, or shook hands with that, hello, and a little fucking hug and all that kind of stuff. And I gave him this book, and had a photograph taken. And then some other guy came up with a load of posters to sign, and he said, so I just got to do this. And he said, yeah, I've got 2 tickets, VIP, like them little patches that stick in the thing. Yeah. Do you want to... He said, bleeding cold, isn't it? Because he's cockney as fuck. He said, go on, get yourself in there. We'll have a natter when I've done this. So his bodyguard took us in. This is about 4 o'clock. Yeah. Into the brickyard, and then he came in and we chatted for about an hour. Right. And then he said, I'm going to go and do the sound check now. You can stay, or you can just come back later if you want. He said, there's a guy called Tony Moore. He's our support tonight. He's well worth seeing. Right. He played with us once for one concert. He did like keyboards. Right. But he's very proggy. Yeah. He said, you probably won't like that because you're into punk. Because we had to chat about music, and I wanted to talk about music and Maiden, and he wanted to talk about books. It was weird. So I said, no, I'll stiff the sound check. I've never been to a sound check before. And his bodyguard said, don't take any photographs. This is like where they get the mistakes out. I said, absolutely. Won't do anything like that. He said, the bar's shut, but to the rider, there's some beer upstairs. You want the beer? So he came down with some like bottles of beer and some bottles of water. Looked after us incredibly well. Yeah. So about, I don't know, it'd be about 6. The doors weren't open. They were still shut. And so Steve had finished the sound check. Then he came back and we were just like chatting about books and got on really well. And I thought, I said to Joanne, I think we're kind of getting in the way now a bit. Now they want to get ready, and they're going to have to clear up. Yeah. So that Tony can, because Tony, he'd done his sound check, and they were kind of getting ready, and they were clearing up the floor, put on the floor. So I said, Steve, it's been a fucking brilliant. We're going to just let you do your thing now. We're going to go to the pubs. And he said, oh, don't blame me. He said, but if you want to come and watch up with the band later on the gantry, do. And I was like, well, yeah, it's something I wouldn't even know how to do. Yeah. So we went to the King's Head, came back. We'd actually met these 2 guys, reporters from Oxford United, who worked for the Carlisle game. Yeah. And because we'd had tickets for British Lion, but we had our VIP tickets as well. And they came up, we just happened to chat, and they said, is there a British Lion gig tonight? Because we have all these T-shirts. So they're just playing that. I said, I wish I'd known, because we're up for the football tomorrow. And I said, look, if you come with us, we'll get you in, because they're electronic tickets. Yeah. So we'll get you in on our tickets. Yeah.
We've got VIPs.
And because we got the VIP. So I was fucking, it's my local. I was being such a dick. I was like, all these like these Maiden fans who were like Maiden fans since I've been a punk. Yeah. They've got like tour T-shirts from like the 7th Son T-shirts, and I've been a Maiden fan for like 20 minutes. 2 years. Backstage. And it was a VIP ticket. It wasn't like an after-show party. It was basically an access. He said you can go and stand by the stage if you want. It's a very small stage. I said, no, I'm going to do it, because it is a very small, it's about the size of this, isn't it? Yeah. And so we went back in. We just joined the big crowd. Yeah. Thought we'll just enjoy the gig. And then his bodyguard just tapped us and said, come on, Steve wants you to come and have a chat. We just want you to watch Tony Moore with him. So we went up and just watched the support with him. And then he said, right, we'll come up the way, and if you just stay here until liner on the stage. Then you just go down and you can just stand right above them.
Right by the stairs.
On
the stairs there's a couple.
Yeah, we've been to the Brickyard recently, so it's been done out. Yeah. So when they come down,
so if
we were actually we could have just walked down the stairs and just like, so just the most incredible view ever. And then after, Steve was saying, because I'd mentioned going to New York.
Yeah.
I said we were hoping that the book would. I didn't have a release date for the next book in the Koenig series. I was hoping it was going to be out around about the same time, so I could do it with a maiden gig. But I said it's not out till December, and it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
And we'd been chatting, and he said, I said, any books you don't have? And he said, well, I'd love some signed Poe and Flukes, and my daughter's really into them as well. Yeah, yeah. So here's my home address. Well, he actually emailed me. He said, this is my home address.
Yeah.
He lives in Barbados, or the Bahamas, actually. Right. Sorry, but he has a massive house in the UK as well.
Yeah.
And so I'd sent him some books. He'd emailed me back when he got them eventually, because he was on tour. He didn't get them straight away.
Yeah.
I emailed him back saying, pleasure. Weirdly, he didn't get that email. Must have went to his junk or something. So about a week later, I got this like kind of panicky thing saying, I got your books. Did not get my... I think he was like feeling bad that his like thank you had gone missing.
Yeah.
Which is like, I thought he's fucking Steve Harris. He doesn't have to say thank you. But he said, then if you do manage to get out to New York, I'll put you on the VIP guest list for the maiden gig. So I said to Joanne, come on, we'll go to New York in November.
Whether you like it or not.
So what his actually email said was, if you come to New York, I'll put you on the guest list. It's a bit early now to be thinking, but here's my mobile number. WhatsApp me. We'll keep in touch via WhatsApp, and we'll sort it out nearer the time. And so we'll WhatsApp each other about football mainly, or the weather.
Yeah.
He just laughs at me when it's pissing down the UK, Sunday thing, laughing at me for it being cold.
Send him the memes that we all send one another.
Yeah, we do. And particularly about West Ham, they're having a bit of a torrid time, because he's a mad keen footballer.
Yeah.
And I'll send them. I send them. I sent my proof of the new book, the new Koenig book, the one that's out. And he's enjoying that. Thanks me, so he's just a really nice guy.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But I'll be in the VIP. So I suspect being on the VIP guest list for a maiden gig will be a different beast to the Brickyard.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Slightly.
But
you'll get to meet the rest of the band as well, won't you? Awesome.
And also, I mean, it's New York, so they'll have all sorts of guests there. So
you never know.
Because, I mean, when you see some of their things, like, when I watch some of their documentaries and things like Slayer come backstage and see them like
all sorts of people.
Because they've got some, like, mega fans as well.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you name it, all of them bands like Slayer and, well, all of the big four, they all cite Maiden as their influences, don't they?
I mean, one night, I can't remember when he said, I'm going to be right at the front and Steve Harris is going to machine gun me with his bass like that. It's just as excited like that. So I'll be there, like, going to be like this, like,
I love how
dickhead author like that. Sitting there, this Bruce Springsteen.
I love how from writing, your whole life has completely changed, isn't it? It's like to an aspect. If someone had told you when you were 16, sitting in that army recruitment office, saying, you know what, Mike, in 40 years' time, which would have seemed like a lifetime away, wouldn't it? But back then, but you're going to be hobnobbing with Iron Maiden, Stiff Little Fingers.
Yeah,
you're going to have books. You're going to be films written. You're going to be all sorts of things. It's like absolutely fantastic.
I mean, most of all,
sometimes if you sit back and think about it, it must blow your mind. Sometimes, does it?
I do. I mean, I was just saying before, I got contact with Graham Norton's team to do the Graham Norton podcast.
Yeah.
And
which is not as good as this one.
It's not, yes. the lesser podcast, I call it. And when I finished, my wife says, just take a minute, you've been like chatting to Graham Norton.
Yeah.
And every now and then we'll go, Steve Harris, like that. We'll just like say,
it's great.
Just like out the blue, completely like that. It's just like weird. Because, I mean, we're still very grounded. It still seems astonishing when things like this happen. I'm never going to get used to things like that.
But do you not find that people like Steve Harris are still very grounded himself?
Oh, they are, yeah. absolutely.
I can imagine you could have met some right pompous idiots in your time, but also some real.
Some more. I mean, I being quite high profile for Cumbria, I get invited to do a lot of Cumbrian things. So I'm a judge on the Cumbria Food Awards.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm known for being a bit of a snobby foodie.
Yeah.
But also so they like me there because I'm not a chef and I'm not in the industry. And it's nice to just have something. Yeah. So I'd met Dave Myers when he was hosting.
Yeah.
And he became a reader of mine.
Yeah.
And we kept in touch. He invited me around for dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, I was genuinely upset when he died.
Yeah.
Because he was such a lovely man. He was really down to earth. This year it was Simon Rimmer.
Right.
And I don't watch the Sunday brunch thing. I don't dislike Simon Rimmer. I didn't really know anything about him.
Yeah.
His speech was very funny.
Yeah.
Very good, very passionate because he's a restaurateur.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, we were just going to go back to the hotel, and one of the organisers said, come and meet Simon Rimmer. And Simon, this is Mike. He's Sunday Times best-selling author. He's got something on it. He said, he's an author. I'm writing a crime book.
Do you get that right?
I do. Not normally from a celebrity. But he said, would I better get in touch for advice every now and then? I said, yeah, of course. So he said, here's my mobile. Put your number in my mobile.
Yeah.
So I didn't have my reading glasses, so I got Joanne to do it. And then he rang it straight away just to check I hadn't fucking given him a duff number. And in the morning, he was already texting us.
No.
About advice and things like that. And he sent me his first 10,000 words, and I read it, and I give as much feedback as I could. It was very good, actually. Because he very cleverly, it's a crime book, but he set it with someone who has a stake in a restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd fed back and I gave him some advice and didn't think anything of it. We were in Manchester doing an event just a couple of weeks ago. One of the last ones on the Mercy Chair tour. It was a library event, Manchester Central Library. This beautiful building. And went to Albert Schloss, which is like a German beer keller kind of thing, which does really good German food and thing. And it was only a minute walk from the venue. And we'd been there before. We'd been there before. And I was having a bratty, Joanne was having, I can't remember what we're having, and then Simon Rimmer walks in. And like Joanne said, there's Simon Rimmer, go and say hello to him. I said, no, you won't remember who I am. And she said, go on. So I said, all right. So I just went, I said, Simon, and he reckoned straight away he remembered me. And I said, well, so he came over, he said, is Joanne here? I said, yeah, because she came over in the middle of Albert Schloss, and people said, who the fuck are these two? Like getting hugs off Simon Rimmer. And he said, I've just got a booth round the back. When he finished, he said, are you hanging around? I said, we haven't even got, the food's not arrived yet.
Yeah.
He said, well, when you finished, and you go, just come and say bye. So I said, yeah, fair enough. And then John says, we're going to. I said, oh, fuck. That's going to be weird. But I mean, my publicist who took us to Albert Schloss the first time as part of a work thing, I told her, I said, we'll just bump into Simon Rimmer. Send her a photograph, look at you bumping into him. He says, I've been there loads of times now, I've never seen him. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah. Is it his then or something?
Yeah, it's his restaurant. So I looked up. So I said, well, I wonder why. It said Albert Schloss, owned by Simon Rimmer, and he's like opening one in London soon and things like that. And it's in his portfolio. So I said, well, let's go and see. So we still weren't going to, but then we came to the bill, and I says, Simon's taking care of it.
You're kidding?
So he'd paid the bill.
No way.
Of which Little Brown were going to pay for anyway. Well, they would have paid my bit. They wouldn't have paid Joanne's thing. So I said, well, we've got to go and say hello now.
Yeah.
So we ended up chatting for about half an hour. I'm having such a laugh about writing and things like that. I was like, some of the pitfalls that you get and just a proper giggle. And he says, come back later when your event's finished. I'll be here till about 1 a.m. And I mean, Albert Schloss is awful at night for me. It's like a disco kind of nightclub kind of dum. You can't hear yourself think. It was really awful. And he'd gone by the time, because we'd stayed in Wetherspoons after the event. Went to one of the Wetherspoons in Manchester with all the other writers and the readers and things. Just had a good laugh, just having a bit of a piss up. And then we went back to Albert Schloss just because it was right next to our hotel anyway. Yeah. And we were just like, where else can we drink? kind of thing. But he wasn't there anyway. That time of night. But yeah, so. But he said, I'd come down next time. Let me know when you're coming down. We'll get drunk and things like that. Wow. Right. Yeah. Cool.
Cool, innit?
Yeah.
Because I was just a quick one as well. I had Steve Dunn. Do you remember? You know? Dunn,
yeah, no, I know Dunn. Yeah.
So he was on last week. And,
yeah, I went to Charlotte on the Tuesday actually.
Oh,
I said, "Are you going to such?" And said, "No, but Stephen's doing a podcast in Penrith tonight." So I said, "What, Tatty Tape?" He said, "Yeah." How do you know that? I said, "I'm doing it next week."
Because he was saying that. Did he give you one of your first? Well, it was the first thing at the fire station, wasn't it? That
they put on a crime festival.
Is that what it was?
And they let me launch my book.
Was that the first book?
Yes, that was in 2015.
Oh, was it?
So I've every book other than the COVID years, I've launched at the fire station.
Yeah. Oh, so you actually launched there as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So I mean, the first one, it was set up for a big festival anyway. So I had maybe like 70 people in, which is by far the biggest crowd of the festival because it flopped a bit. The next one we closed off the back and just did the back thing. We had about 50 people there, which was quite nice for a small book. Then Black Summer, we got about 100 people in there.
Wow.
The Creator was COVID, Dead Ground was COVID, and then The Botanist. The post series was very popular by then. And we just said, we'll pay for it, and we'll just have a no ticket thing. Anyone wants to come can come.
Just rock up. Yeah.
And it was absolute bedlam. It was because we honestly didn't know because we hadn't had one for 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And you didn't I was thinking, I hope. So Will had put out all the seats.
Yeah. And it was just standing room only.
And it was standing room only, and the bar, and I was in the bar, and it was a massive distraction. And he said, "I can't let you go on yet. We're still like 6 deep at the bar, kind of thing." So the following year for Fearless, it was a bit more arranged. Bookends did it all, so they hired the venue.
Yeah.
And a mate of mine came up, and we basically kept out the way. We just went straight through at the green room.
Yeah, and then came in the back door.
But it sold out within about 2 months.
Did it?
This year for the Mercy Chair, sold out in less than 48 hours.
You're kidding.
250 seats.
Wow.
And I'm a little bugger because I just have a guest list. I thought, Steve Harris can have a guest list. I want a guest list. So it's sold out. You couldn't get me in. Yeah, it'll be fine. Like that. But fucking Joanne with an analytical brain. It's not where they're going to sit. There's not understand all this kind of thing. And I give it to Will when he came in. And the guest list, which had about 20 people on. And he said, have Bookends taken that into account when they've been selling tickets? And I don't know. That'll be fine.
You'll find a space.
Yeah, and at the back there's loads of people standing, so it's fine. And it was a really good night. And he does really well at the bar because all my lot are drinkers anyway.
Yeah.
And the signing queue goes on for ages, so everyone hangs around and talk. And then went back to King's Head because there was a pre-event at the King's Head and there was a post-event at the King's Head. Right. And then he didn't kick us out. So in fact, we were still there because his mate had come up from London. There was a reader of mine, Mike, and I left at 1:45 in the morning. Yeah. Only because I was.
There's no beer left.
That's my wife. She's getting panicky now. Yeah.
He's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Oh shit! You had.
Yeah, I best go. I had an event. I was doing words by the water the next day.
Oh, in Keswick. I bet that was a bit more formal.
It was a much straighter event. Yes, but I was like really hungover, and I thought as long as my whole goal for this is just not to shit myself on stage. So I think I'll consider that a win. But it was a really good event anyway.
Awesome. Well, it's been a blast. I knew it would be. Thank you so much for coming on, Luke.
Thank you for having me.
Hope tonight goes well on the old Zoom call.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
I look forward to all his Netflix adventures. He's got to go. So,
bye everyone.
Yeah, have a good time. Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
So Mike had to quickly zoom off there, as you can see, because he got a very important Zoom call with Netflix. So if you did enjoy the show, thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And you know what to do if you did enjoy it. And stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you on the ice. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. See ya.